Right. Well, hello everyone. This is the next podcast in the series, and we have Wayne, one of my illustrious auditors, contract auditor.
Yeah,
I won't big him up
illustrious.
too much. He could do that himself. Yeah,
I can try.
that's it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're both in hotels, so a little bit different to the other episodes where we were sitting in the office. But I'm currently in not so well. It's very rainy pool
Yeah.
on a two day audit, and Wayne you're in a
I'm,
bit luxurious.
yeah, I say luxurious. Yeah. I'm in Amsterdam for a week, and I am in a place that is one of these box rooms that you see in Japan and stuff like that. So I've not got much headroom.
Yeah,
But it's
you're
quite.
not 8 feet tall, are you?
No, no, no. I'm not actually a giant. I'm actually 4.5 foot. um, Yeah, and it's nice. It's bigger than some of the spaces I've slept in. So yeah,
This
it
is
works.
this is the
It
glamorous
works.
side of auditing, isn't it?
It
Really,
is.
that
Oh,
people don't
absolutely.
see. Yeah, yeah,
This is why we do it, isn't it? To stay in boxes.
that's it. Yeah, I must admit, I think my room's a little bit nicer than your room.
Yeah, I was going to say one of us has got a nicer room, haven't
Yeah,
they?
well,
But
you booked it. You booked your one.
this is true. This is true. I also booked the audit on the weekend that they're doing the Dam to Dam marathon, I think it's called.
Okay.
So yeah, which is why there are no hotels available, only hostels in this place. And this place is technically a hostel, just they've put boxes around the
Upmarket.
beds. Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Dear, oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, what are we going to be talking about today?
So I think we'll have a bit of a chat about human factors, and just to kind of help people understand a bit further, and yeah, talk about the difference between human factors and human error and all these good things.
So I should probably point out that human factors is more associated with aerospace.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's where it kind of comes from in the first place. So
Yeah, but I feel like it's something that all industries can kind of integrate into their systems and their practices, because I think it's
it's a good practice. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, it's just because it's aerospace, it stems from it. There's no harm in implement it in any management system, to be fair.
no, exactly, and these things do usually trickle down through different engineering practices and different business practices eventually, don't they? So yeah, so why not get a head start?
That's it. Get a head start. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so what for people that don't know, what is human factors? Quick synopsis. What
So
it is, what it means.
human factors is essentially the human element of the system when anything, if anything, does go wrong. It's the flesh and blood side of things that gets it wrong. They reckon it's about 70 to 80% of incidents in the aerospace world are attributed to human factors.
Wow,
So
that's
it's
a
quite
lot.
a big, yeah, it's quite a big portion when you think about it. But yeah, there's kind of a summary of 12 of them that have been kind of figured out by some of the aerospace boffins, and yeah, it's something that we try and build into what we do.
That came from Canada, didn't it, originally? If I remember rightly, was it Canadian maintenance or
It
something like
was,
that? Aircraft.
yeah, it was a while ago, because it started off with pilots and aircrew, and then it's kind of trickled down into the engineering world. So through the maintenance engineers on aircraft, and then into the manufacturing industry in the supply chain. So yeah, I think it does ring a bell that it's kind of a
Yeah, I think
maybe
that's
a
where it originally sort of come about, if I remember rightly. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But it's a subject I find quite interesting. Things like this, because it does kind of ask the deeper questions as to why things go wrong.
Well, I remember a few years ago when we used to say human error in
Yeah,
non-conformances and things like that. Well, you can't say that. You can't blame a human and things like that. But
yeah, yeah, and
no,
that's
actually, you're not blaming the human. You're blaming the
no,
system that's basically
yeah,
kind of generated the human error, isn't it? Really?
Exactly. And it also, it's because the human error element is, okay, we've established that the person's got something wrong. And then the human factor is what the contributing factor is that might have caused that human error. Like you said, it's important to note that the human factor isn't necessarily the root cause because the system's allowed that to happen. So it's not about blaming people, but it's also not about taking responsibility away from people either. It's a fine balance. So, yeah.
It's important. Yeah, it's good. It is a good subject. It's quite it's quite
definitely.
a good discussion when you're at clients.
Yeah, and I do have this discussion with a lot of my clients, whether I'm auditing or consulting. It's always an interesting conversation, and I still learn about it speaking to clients as well. So, because I'm not going to sit here and say that I know every single thing about human factors. I mean, I've had my fair share of interactions with it.
We'll end the podcast now then, shall we?
Yes.
I thought I had an expert on the line.
Yeah. Yeah, no, fair enough. Fair enough. I'll give you your money back as well.
Yeah, all those audits you've done for me, I'll have the money back.
Yeah, definitely.
So why is it important then? Why is human factors important?
Well,
to understand and implement, really, I guess.
I think there's a few reasons why it's important. Like I said, it contributes to quite a big number of incidents that happen in the aerospace industry and probably the wider industry as a whole, in terms of commercial or medical or any of these others, but maybe just not documented as much. But also it's kind of with the result of looking into human factors and stuff like that, you can also bring leadership and the shop floor into more sort of synergy and bringing relationships to closer together, through the whole business, which kind of, it helps with productivity, it helps with so many aspects of any industry that you're in, just to push forward that quality and drive a just culture, which is another interesting element.
So it's not just for errors, human factors. Then it's a proactive process as well. Then.
Yeah, exactly. So I mentioned about the dirty dozen human factors, but there's also the magnificent seven, which is 7 human factors that have been determined that are actually positive. So positive reinforcement of quality and positive commitment to education and like I say, the just culture, which used to be called the no blame culture. So which essentially gives anybody at work the confidence that they can come forward having either been witnessed or made an error, knowing that they're not going to be punished in an undue way. It's kind of, again, not blaming the person, blaming the system, but understanding the person element to it. So yeah, which ultimately is what we need, because if Joe Bloggs gets something wrong on the shop floor but isn't confident enough to come forward and say something's happened, that issue could end up on a piece of equipment or in something that could be safety critical. It could be something that can.
Yeah, it's that's a very good point. I suppose that comes from leadership, doesn't it? Because the amount of times I've been on an audit and you can tell people are a little bit nervous to say anything. They don't want to say the wrong things, and they tend to hide things, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And you can tell when you're in a place and you're talking to people on the shop floor or the leadership team, you can tell if that kind of if that culture is embedded or not. Where and the difference is chalk and cheese, and you can see the difference as well. The business performance, which I find quite interesting. People who adopt that kind of just culture kind of attitudes tend to have a lot better performance in the business and tend to be more successful.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, and if not at that time certainly going that way. You know, you kind of walk away with confidence that you go in again the next year and they're going to be twice as big as they were that year. That kind of thing. So I wouldn't say 100% of the time, but certainly the majority of the time, that's the kind of vibe I get from it.
Okay, so being more open drives continual improvement, which I suppose it makes sense, doesn't it? People coming forward, not trying to hide things.
Exactly, and it also I think it helps with bringing good ideas forward as well. You know, if you feel if your team have got that feeling that they can approach you and not be scorned, then they're going to approach you with the good ideas as well as anything that's gone wrong. You know, and you don't know whose head these great ideas are going to be in. So I think it's important to have that kind of culture and going back to the human factors. I think that's kind of a big part of it, really.
Yeah. It is. Well, yeah, I mean, even Google Maps, wasn't it? Came from an employee idea, wasn't it? Or something, a little experiment they were doing, I think. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned the Dirty Dozen then.
Yes.
Is that the movie?
Sometimes. It depends on what you're looking at. It's 12 human factors that are kind of or groups of human factors. So it's not, these are the only 12, but they're the kind of big groups that you can put them into. And it's things like fatigue, things like norms, lack of assertiveness, lack of knowledge, lack of communication. Yeah, so I can list all 12.
Go on, list all the 12, because some people are going to go, "What the hell's this?" Go
okay, on. I have got them written down just so I don't repeat myself. This is something I was taught through my career: is not to rely on memory and write things down. It always helps. Yeah. So, like I say, you got poor communication or lack of communication, complacency, a lack of knowledge, distraction, stress, lack of resource, pressure, so whether that's time pressure or anything else, lack of teamwork, loss of awareness, accepting norms, fatigue, and lack of assertiveness. So those are the 12. And I think a couple of the ones that I keep talking about is things like complacency.
Funny enough, the audit I'm on this week, they do the human factors on all their findings, and complacency is the number one thing on their list.
Yeah, I do see that quite a lot, and it's an interesting one because initially you can kind of read that and think it's that like I don't really care kind of attitude, but it's not necessarily that. It's also, like when you've driven to work and you do the same route day in day out, and you get to work, you park up the car and you've forgotten the whole journey. Like how did I get here? That's complacency.
We laugh, but yeah, you're right.
It's complacency.
Bad,
it's that robotic action that we take because it's something that we do day in, day out, over and over again. And it is something that you see that can be quite easily challenged by just rotating people's work to slightly different things, just taking that kind of mundane day-to-day. Yeah, exactly. So that's quite an interesting one, I think. And norms as well. That kind of, it's how we've always done it.
We've always done it that way. Yeah. That's a great quality classic, isn't it? We've always done it that way.
It's always been, the amount of times I've heard that, people just say, well, it's never been like that before, or that's how we've always done it. You could say that, but also, we used to drive without seatbelts. We used to.
That's true.
Yeah, we used to be able to get bus tickets, plane tickets. I'll get there eventually.
Yeah,
plane tickets as if you were getting on the bus, and that's different now.
Yeah.
And for the right reasons. That it's.
Well, even not that long ago when we used to. I mean, you're a bit younger than me, I think, but we used to go through airports. There was no taking your liquid out of your bag.
Yeah, although that's going back now, isn't it? Because they've got new machines.
They keep flip-flopping. Yeah, but apparently Europe's not interested in that. They want to keep it. I think they just like creating lines. But but it was you're right on the norms, though, because I get on a pick on this client, but Client was out this week. They've not long had Aerospace.
Yeah.
And there's some of the employees, which it takes time, I know, in a new business and culture change, things like that. There's a few people like, well, we've done it this way before. Well, what now? And they're like, well, we're now Aerospace. We've now got to do this. Yeah, but it worked back then. You do get that.
You do, yeah. You absolutely, and even with well-established aerospace engineering firms and suppliers, you do. I still come across it. Like I've been doing this 30 years, and it's always been all right then, But yeah, that's fine. But then, not to pick on any of the big boys in aerospace, but Boeing is a prime example of that we never had, never happened before. They've never had a plug door fall out of an aircraft before.
Yeah.
So these things happen, and being aware of that complacency is not the norms can actually stop you from having a plug door fall out of your aircraft.
Yeah. I mean, how do you? I suppose fresh people coming into the business can help try and break the norms, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so, and I think there's a number of things that fresh people's definitely an obvious one, I'd say, and then things like having that communication, that open communication with your leadership team. I mean, the leadership team, you go into some places and they don't even know what the shop floor looks like anymore, and you've lost connection, and haven't you? So then you can't really see the live what's going on, So I think that's a good thing to do, is just reconnect with people, reconnect with your team, reconnect with the management team, and be open and honest, and not just as a reaction to something, not just as a reaction to something going wrong, but proactively.
Right.
Because again, it goes back to that just culture, that if you feel like your management team are there and they're in there with you, you feel more obliged to open up to them about any problems or any positive points. So, yeah.
Good point. So I suppose, what's some of the other common ones then? I suppose I'm seeing at the moment a lot of resource issues.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that quite a lot, and it's probably been going for quite a few years, to be honest, especially in the UK.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to pick on Brexit or anything, but since Brexit, we've lost a lot of resources in this country. A lot of people left when that vote happened.
That's true, but also I'd say that it's I've seen it around the world. I've been to some places outside of Europe, like America, and inside of Europe, like in Amsterdam, Germany, Bulgaria. These sort of places. I've seen the same kind of story.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think
what's the answer? We've got to breed more.
That's a difficult one, right? Yeah. It's
you can't just make more people all of a sudden, can you? I suppose AI robots. I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that maybe the answer is to not focus on bringing more people in, but focus on how you can make systems better and more effective, more efficient. Because I think if you over-focus, and that instantly falls into one of the human factors, if you over-focus on the wrong thing, you can get distracted from the real
problem.
Yeah, or the problem or real solution, or because there are solutions out there, like automation is a real solution, and I think it's just the way industries go. They do kind of go up and down, don't they?
That's a good point, because where we previously worked together, they would just throw more people at it, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Instead of actually coming back and saying, hang on a minute, let's relook at our systems, and is there a better way of doing this, streamlining processes? They'll just throw bodies at it.
Exactly. And saying that, you can kind of liken it to the difference between the British military and the American military. Not to dig at anybody, but the American military tend to throw a lot of people at a situation, whereas the British military because we don't have the resources that America do, we have to be a bit more thoughtful of what we do and how we do it, and more tactical. So I think there's that kind of consideration that there just might not be enough people, and think about how we can adapt around that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
You should teach this or something.
Did I say I wasn't an expert? Just call me Dr. Wayne.
That's it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
some of the
but
other sort of common ones that people come
so
up against.
I find distraction is another one. And this is one that can take a couple of different things. So distraction can come from anything. You can have things going on at home. Obviously, as an employee, there's only limited things you can do, right? You can't step into marriage counselling or anything like that if you've got somebody who's having a hard time at home. But you can workload you give them. You can take that kind of, if it's something that they can go from that needs a lot of concentration to something that you can kind of just do in that robotic manner. You can kind of mitigate against that distraction, that lack of focus. But also another thing you can do is if you've got, for an example, in a machine shop where you've got somebody who's operating 3 or more machines, and then they get pulled away to help an apprentice with something, and then they come back, and they've been distracted from a task in hand, they could miss out or incorrectly input something in a program, and then that's it. Suddenly that part is no good, and something that we did when I was in the Navy and working with aircraft. One of the things they did to mitigate that with flight servicing was they give us like vests to wear when we were flight servicing. That meant
It's
that
like do not disturb vest type
exactly
thing, is
that.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly that. So when somebody's got to do a task that you focus on, having a do not disturb sign on your back is a great way of preventing some of that. Come here, mate. Give me a hand with this kind of thing,
That's a good idea. I might start wearing that in the office.
You just get it
Just
tattooed on your face,
obvious,
man.
just all the time. Do not
Yeah,
disturb.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. But
That's a good idea, that is.
yeah. There's some good. I've seen some good things come from my time in the Navy. Things like awareness. Putting posters on the back of toilet doors. Because when you go in to take your 5 minutes or whatever, you've got something there to read, haven't you? If you're not looking at your phone anyway. Yeah. But it's still that something that's there, and even like well placed posters and well placed information is. I think a lot of people can get notice board blind and see who walk past the same notice board day in day out and nothing, not see anything significantly change, so they just walk past it.
So one of the things I've found on awareness as well is when like a contract changes or something happens, quantity change or something in the contract or a revision, whatever, and it just hasn't flowed through the system, has it? It's kind of stopped. And they thought, well, hang on, all these people need to be made aware of this.
Yeah.
And it's just not happened.
Yeah.
Just not happened.
And that's another good point, actually, Mike, is that these human factors don't just affect the people on the machines on the cutting edge of the tool. It's the people that's receiving contracts, doing the reviews, people that are talking to customers, people that are buying parts, materials, things like that. It applies to everybody. So,
It's true, because if I'm looking at a new standard or something, new accreditation standards come out, I'll always do it at home. And I'll turn my phone off, turn my email off, shut my door, and I'll just sit there on my own with a highlighter pen.
Yeah.
Just so I can focus for that time, making sure, I've covered everything and I'm not getting disturbed or anything like that, distractions. So, we can all do it, can't we? Simple things.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's important to find the right thing, because that wouldn't work for me, because I couldn't just sit there in a dark room trying to read something.
Well, I have the lights on.
I mean, yeah.
I can't read it in the dark.
Going wrong.
Yeah, that's where you're going wrong. You got your lights off.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll try it again then with the lights on.
Try my method next time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah, I'm getting the wrong method. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I suppose it's right though. It's not one size fits all, is it? Really? It's what works for one won't work for another.
Yeah, and again, this is going back to the importance of having that relationship with people. Is that how are you going to know that you're going to encourage somebody to come forward if you don't know how they react to in situations. You don't know anything really about them other than that they're a good machinist or top quality purchaser, or you don't, if you don't know anything about them, you can't really get the best out of them. And I guess that's kind of the lack of knowledge human factor then, isn't it? Is that you don't, because you don't know. It's like, you don't, if you get a new phone and you don't, you've gone from Android to Apple, and then you complain that you can't use it, but it's because you don't know it. Until you learn it, then I'm not saying that.
So you saying the knowledge, yeah. So you saying, not yet.
No, well, yeah.
So you saying the knowledge isn't just about doing the job; it's also about knowing the people,
yeah,
and what they're like. Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it is, we can easily focus on the wrong things if we don't broaden our horizons with the way we look at these human factors and the way we look at anything really. We need to think outside the box a little bit with them, so that we're kind of getting the most out of them. Because people are not unlike anything else. Not to be disrespectful or anything, but people are tools in our business, aren't they? And if we don't understand the tools that we're using, it's that lack of knowledge of that use of that tool, isn't it? So
never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
See, I'm learning.
There we go. You see, every day is a school day.
Every day is a school day.
Yeah, I just realised my screen is bouncing about a lot as well, because I'm like sat on this box bed. Every time I laugh, it bounces around. Yeah. Yeah, lack of resource.
That's it, lack of resources.
Need a desk. Need one of these bed desks.
So you were complacent in booking your hotel. Lack of knowledge, was it?
Yeah. Plenty of human factors there. Fatigue, yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one, I suppose.
I was just about to say that's an interesting one, because it's not just about being sleepy, which interestingly somebody picked me up on a witness audit. I'm not going to go into that though.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just being tired. You can have it from, if you're staring at a screen for 8 hours a day, your eyes are going to fatigue. Your mind's going to fatigue. If you're a programmer and you're looking at numbers day in, day out, looking at lines of code day in, day out, you're going to get tired of that. It's going to fatigue you. So you can, again, I know it seems cliche, but taking frequent breaks, or I used to work for my stepdad before I joined the Navy, and he used to always say to me, it used to frustrate me at the time, but now I get it, is that a change is as good as a rest. And it's true, but his change is as good as a rest was moving from using the shovel to using the pickaxe. So,
okay.
So it wasn't quite the same. But yeah, so if you change what you do, you move outside of that, even for 10 minutes, just put something to, if you feel like and it's that old thing, isn't it, where you feel like you're getting frustrated with something, you want to throw your computer across the room, you take a couple of minutes, take a step outside and come back, and it all becomes suddenly clear, doesn't it?
Yeah, very true. And I think that's why I run quite a bit. And
right.
I run, and usually if I've got a problem or something I'm trying to face,
yeah,
I'll be sitting there and I'll just say, like, I'm coming back to this tomorrow. It's not urgent. I'm going to come back next morning, go for my run, and often I just think of the solution there and then. It's not always, but it definitely helps to change the scenery.
Yeah.
Your mind's in a different place. Yeah. Definitely helps. I suppose companies, even like you say, having regular breaks, going for a quick coffee break or tea break or cigarette, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, because I think it's human nature to hyper focus on certain things. I think you can really focus in on a problem and focus in on that specific problem rather than taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture of it. And with that, you're not really getting to the cause. So you can't come up with a solution because you're focusing on this thing, and then you take a step back and you realize you've missed a space in a line of code, or
pulling your hair out for hours.
Yeah.
I suppose that's where the teamwork part can come into it. I suppose bringing other members into the team to look at a problem. That can...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why a lot of these lot of these industries, especially sort of building components and stuff like that, like maintenance and overhaul and things, they have independent inspections for that reason, to get a second set of eyes on something, so that you can see that, because you can get in there and you can really be in the muck and not seeing everything around you because you're in there, aren't you?
I think, we always get that thing, auditor's eye, don't we? We just walk into a car, we just stumble on something.
Yeah.
And they're like, how do you find that? And it's like auditor's eye, but it is actually just fresh set of eyes coming in.
Yeah,
It's just chance. It's not,
Yeah.
None of these things are planted. We just find it because fresh eyes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Looking at something, looking at a situation, challenging certain things. It's good for all of us, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is good because you're learning from everybody, and that's why I say that I wouldn't call myself an expert, because even though I might be well versed in the subject, I mean, we've all got things we can learn. We've all got things we can take away from every interaction we have.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, how can an organisation actually implement human factors? I've always seen it as it's after something's gone wrong, but
right.
It's also the positives, isn't it, on the proactive approach? So how can an organisation sort of go about thinking about human factors and how they can apply it?
So I think that's actually one of the more challenging areas, is that application and that sort of understanding, your organisation's understanding of it as well. But just continue training is a really sort of straightforward go-to. Continued awareness, making sure people are aware of what human factors are, because if Joe Bloggs gets something wrong on the shop floor, he might be able to say straight away, it's because I got pulled off for this job and I had to come back, and instantly that cuts down a huge amount of your time, your root cause analysis time, because you've got that awareness on the shop floor that they can understand that there are human factors to what they do, So I think that kind of communication, that awareness, just ongoing training as well. I think there's something to be said in ongoing training, and something, you can learn something once, and then if you keep using it, it will disappear. You'll forget it. It's like learning a language, isn't it? I learned German in school, and I used to be really good at it, but then I stopped using it for years, and now I can barely say my name, or
Why,
not that
Wayne,
my name's different.
I was going to say, is your name different in German, is it? It's Barbara.
yeah, that's it. Only the weekends. I'm struggling with the English language today, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too much time in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, because you're not using human factors constantly, are you? You're not always thinking about it. It's just something it's just natural, isn't it? And if you look at them written down in front of you, they're obvious. It's nothing overly scientific. It's nothing too like, oh gosh, I didn't even think of that. It's all obvious stuff. So just maintaining that training, and like I said earlier, management teams being out on the shop floor and seeing it and being exposed to it, and it drives that, and that's kind of what we want to have, is that just culture.
So does it really matter then if leadership's involved in this? It sounds like it kind of needs to stem from leadership a little bit to make sure it's an open, like you say, a just culture and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're not going to go to your supervisor or your manager and put your hands up and say something's wrong if you feel like you're going to get 10 lashings for putting your hands up. Because let's face it, probably less than 1% of these issues happen because it was intentional. It's a human error. We get things wrong.
People don't do things wrong on purpose. Most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah. I mean, there's intention and error are two different things, and 99.5.9%, however, whatever the exact figure is
It's
not.
maths I can't do in my head, I'm afraid.
As soon as you get past one decimal place, I'm done. But yeah, that is only a minor percentage of people do it on purpose, and then at that point you're looking at a different action, aren't you? You're looking at different avenues. Whereas human error, we will get things wrong. I get things wrong, believe it or not. You know,
No, I do.
It's just the way we are. It's the way we're built. That's what makes people wonderful, right? It's what stops us being machines. So we get things wrong. Yeah. So encouraging that element that people can come forward and be honest and not see any repercussions that are out, that are unnecessary. I think that's the key, is that unnecessary thing. Because like I said earlier, it's not removing accountability, it's not removing responsibility, it's just identifying the system failings. So and it's one of those, it's adding to that Swiss cheese model, which is another.
Well, you're full of them today.
I know, right?
What's the Swiss cheese? You've written all these down. Have you got like a book there that you
just yeah, just got into my checklist, yeah. So the Swiss cheese model is essentially a layer of defense against, so you've got your action and you've got the event. So you've got the incident event or action event or whatever it is. And the Swiss cheese model is each barrier that you put in place to stop that is like a layer of Swiss cheese. If you only had one layer of Swiss cheese in the way, you've got loads of holes. If you put 2 in, you might have a few that still line up. If you put 3 in, you might only have a couple that line up. So the more layers you put in, the less likely you are to have these holes line up, which means the less likely you are to have an incident. So things like quality management system is a layer,
Okay. Yeah. It's kind of safeguards. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Just putting in multiple safeguards to prevent something happening. Yeah.
Exactly. Things like in-process inspection, then final inspection, then independent inspection. These are 3 layers that you can add to something. Obviously, this depends on resource, but it's just an example of layers in that Swiss cheese model.
Yeah, should catch it at one of those 3. Yeah.
So again, not something that people are unaware of, but it's just something that you might not have known had a name. So,
are you naming all these, or are these?
I'm just making it up. Just making it up as you go along. Yeah. If you say it with confidence, people believe you.
Yeah.
That's how I've gotten through life so far.
That's it. It's working. Yeah. You fooled me.
I know, right? I know. Yeah.
So what's the Magnificent 7?
So Magnificent 7 is this is 7 things that you can do. Things like doing that drive for quality, having that kind of quality mindset within the organization, and things like training and awareness and all the sort of the kind of things that we've kind of talked about, mitigating actions.
Okay.
Yeah.
The kind of things that help mitigate not mitigate human factors, but try to mitigate those errors.
Yeah, and it's and drive the improvement side of them rather than the negative side of them. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a list somewhere, but I didn't write that one down.
You didn't write that one down?
I know.
That's another podcast for another time. Is that what you're saying?
It is, yeah. Episode 3.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a subject that I do find really interesting, because it is that, it's understanding Murphy's Law, that if it's likely to happen, it will happen, and what can we do to stop it, and driving down a little bit further into your root cause analysis, and, not just saying human error.
Yeah.
Human error can be, and that's the other thing, understanding the right human factor. If you've got a guy or girl that's been doing the job for 30 years and they get something wrong, and you say, right, well, we'll do some retraining. What training are they going to have that's going to make them understand any better what job they're doing? You don't, unless you know what the human factor is. Just saying additional training is not. It's not always the answer. like I say, it could be you're taking them away from that task. If they're distracted at home, you might give them something a bit easier or a bit less thought-provoking to do, or it might be that you bring on these vests with a do not disturb sign on them.
So how do they get the right human factor though? Not
So
saying they need retraining. Then okay, well, what is the answer? How do they find that out, or how do they come about that answer?
So it's kind of there is you can actually get check sheets that can help you get to the right human factor. There's some, like, if you go to like EASA, they've got some check sheets. There's things you can do. It's just kind of understanding the environment around the person, the time of the incident, what happens. Was it late on in the shift? Was it shift handover? Was it these sorts of things? Anything that you can kind of understand about the situation that actually happened at the time. The more you can understand about that, the more likely you are to find the human factor. And using your root cause analysis tools like your 5 whys, often people forget to ask, why did that person get it wrong?
Ask the person, don't they?
Yeah.
Be honest, what happened?
Yeah,
I was tired. I didn't sleep last night. Had a late flight.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, only just got back from the States.
A bit jet lagged.
Yeah. But again, you'll only really get the answer if you've got that just culture. So that's really the most important part, is getting the culture, that approachable nature from your leadership team, so that people are honest about it. They're not going to be honest if they think they're going to get 10 lashings for saying that they're having a bad time at home, or they're slept in, or were on the booze last night, or whatever it might be. They're not going to. Obviously that one's probably a bit more. There's a bit more intent in that one, but
yes, yeah.
Yeah, but if people don't feel like they can safely say truth about what's on, then you're not really ever going to get to the actual human factor. But you're right, like, interviewing the person is something that often people miss, and they just assume things.
Yeah.
They
ask
forget
the person.
to ask.
Yeah, but I don't want to blame them. You're not blaming them.
No.
I think that's
exactly.
You're not blaming them. Just trying to understand the situation.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is that there's so many people that are so worried about, blaming people, or telling people that they don't know. Like, there's a lack of knowledge there. Why are we afraid of this? Why can we not be told that we don't really know in detail what we need to do?
Yeah, is that my fault, or is that your fault for not communicating it to me? It wasn't clear instructions.
Yeah.
I think I remember a statistic, something like only 30% of all verbal communication is understood. I think there's a statistic around that, which tells you need to write things down sometimes. So
exactly,
communication is, give me the sort of the documented process, or is the job card detailed enough? That's one I find quite often as well. Yeah. It's, experienced machinists, things like that. If you look at the job card, it's hardly anything on it, and you're relying on that person to, which, brilliant engineers, but they're not going to know the conversation that happened in contract review or planning or something, are they? So give them the information down there.
Yeah. Also, there's, interestingly, not to go too off piece, but with the job cards, I think the detail isn't just telling your operators or your people on the shop floor how to do things. It's proving that they've done it. Proving that they've done what's supposed to happen, so that if anything does go wrong and there's an investigation, it gets to your job card and they say, yeah, you've done everything you can within your power. So we're going to keep looking further, rather than get into it and go, rather than get into it and saying, you didn't actually anodize this part to the right spec. It's that kind of, so it's the evidence, or you've not brought this to the right temperature for the right amount of time, or you've not done, if you've documented that, then that's in my mind, that's what a route card is for. It's to document what you've done.
Yeah.
Not instruction of what you. I mean, it's a bit of instruction.
It's a bit of both, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the most important bit is the documenting what you've done. But I think as well, going back to that kind of knowing your people, is that training, that telling them, communicating how to do something. Can they take that in? Because as we know from our days at school, there are different types of learners. There are learners that can read something and digest it. There are learners that need to be shown. Then learners that need to actually get their hands on something. So, painting everybody with the same brush, one size fits all stuff isn't necessarily going to work.
That's very true. Yeah, and you have language barriers as well.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Got people working in your organisation from different countries. Yeah.
Yeah.
They may be better at reading it or verbally or pictures. Yeah.
Yeah.
Picture diagrams on how to do things. Yeah, that's something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, I was did a stage 1 over in the States. One of your clients actually, and a lot of their operators are from Vietnam and don't speak English, so or limited English, so let alone technical English. When you're looking at building wiring looms and stuff like that, there's obviously the technical side of it. So they're having all of their specs and standards and instructions all translated into Vietnamese.
Okay, interesting.
Did I say Vietnam or Thailand?
Yeah, you said Vietnam.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's been a long day. Yeah, so they're getting, but again, that you can't just Google translate that.
No,
because we've all read instructions from things that have come from like China and stuff that's just been Google translated, and none of it really makes any sense in real English. So it's all got to make sense. It's all got to be done properly. But it is an interesting challenge. I think that's certainly, and that goes back to knowing your business, knowing your people. If you don't know that, then how do you effectively manage that? So
good.
Yeah,
that's good. Been a good chat.
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. I could talk for hours about this, as you can
we
tell.
probably could. Yeah,
but I probably shouldn't bore everybody to death.
Is there anything else you wanted to add? Last minute sort of tidbits and tips or anything?
Just kind of summary of our conversation, really. Just try and drive a just culture in your industry, in your organisation, and you will reap the benefits. You'll see the benefits of the people that you employ. I mean, people are not just a liability in a business; they're a valuable resource, and if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So take advantage of that. Yeah, but yeah, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn or anything like that, or just get in touch, then please do.
What's the company called? What's your
BZ Systems?
BZ
Systems.
Where did the name come from? I don't think I've ever asked you actually.
So it's actually an old naval term. So when ships or crews or anybody in the Navy did anything particularly well, they'd use the signal flags Bravo Zulu, which meant well done.
Okay.
Good job. So yeah, and it's still a term that gets used in the Navy now. So you might get some briefings and captain will say BZ everyone, and so.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So because I wanted to call it the business something that kind of went back to my naval roots, but not something that was really obvious, So like anchor systems or yeah. Especially with my first initial being W.
Yeah.
Imagine the email there. W Anchor Systems.
Yeah, probably doesn't go too well.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. But yeah, get in touch if anybody wants to chat or, wants some more information or just wants some help with stuff.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time. It's been good.
Thank you.
In hotels, different parts of the world. So it's been a little bit different.
Yeah,
it's been good.
I'm gonna get out of my box and go and get some
stretch your leg.
Fresh air, because you stretch out a bit and
Don't blame you. Yeah, so at least you can stand up. Yeah, when you get outside.
Exactly. Yeah, if I can, I've been sat here for a while now, so. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Lovely.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening or watching. If you want to follow us, that would be really appreciated. You can hit whatever you're watching on Spotify, YouTube, or whatever other media you're doing. If you subscribe or follow, that would be much appreciated. And we'll catch you all soon. Thank you. Cheers,
All right.
Wayne.
Cheers.